Hey guys, JK here, finally with my top 10 units in global list for the whales. Basically, this means that I'm going to consider all jobs, not just jobs 1 and 2. So this list is going to be very different from the previous lists that I have put out there. Of course, this is going to generate some controversy, I realize that, but this is just my opinion, and I'm speaking in general terms here. So, certain units are going to be better than others in different situations, different levels, different elements and content. So keep in mind, this is just overall, as a guide. So let's get to it. Number 10 is Almira, because of course the snipers are still very viable in this game in the current state of the meta. She's also the easiest sniper to max limit break because she's only a base 3-star, which is very unique for her. She's the only base 3-star in this list. She also has the option of having added range. She has a good element in arena right now because wind elements are not really counterable right now. There's not any really strong fire units, which will change very soon, Mazamune. But for now, wind elements are pretty safe in arena, so you'll see a lot of her up there. She also has good synergy with her jobs, and she has a lot of speed with all the stats that she gains. However, she is, pretty squishy, which is kind of expected for a sniper class, but she doesn't really have any good options against that. And you can see the recommended setups and useful abilities for all of the characters on this list for yourself. I might not go into them unless they're kind of unusual or need to be explained. But anyway, she's just a solid sniper overall, and that's why she's number 10. Number 9 is Caris, and I think that this was a little bit of a tough toss-up because she actually loses head-to-head against Almira because of the element, but I wanted to kind of not hold that against her too much and keep in mind that she's just kind of the best sniper overall in my opinion. And the reason for that is because she has really good synergies with her jobs. I mean, all of her jobs are ranged attack kind of, so you can kind of tell that all the stats are going to go in the right places. She has some decent flexibility actually. For instance, you can put composite armor on her as a reactive ability. If you want to survive a little bit better, you can give her basic firearms as her sub-skill to give her a little bit of AoE with firebomb. So she's a little bit more flexible than other snipers are, I think. And yeah, she's just the best sniper overall if you're not considering head-to-head matchups with different elements. So that's why she's number 9. Number 8 is Balt, because he's just a powerhouse damage dealer if you get him past job 3. I will say that when I first got him up to job 3, I noticed that he did get a lot stronger with overdrive passive and everything, but he still felt a little bit underwhelming for some reason. And then as I kept getting lucky, I guess, and pulling more copies of him, and I got him up to like 80 plus, for some reason he started to shine a lot more. And I'm not sure if like it was just that little bit of stats that he needed to push him over the edge or what, but yeah, the higher you go, the stronger he gets. He has high damage, high evasion, high agility, good skill set, everything you want in a damage dealer. Of course, he is squishy, however. He has low defense because of that overdrive penalty, and also his HP is not that great. It's like in the 600s for me at least. So he does rely a little bit on his evasion and RNG to stay alive. If you are not getting one-shotted by the enemy, you can rely a little bit on blood drain, which helped me a lot during the extra event for Cannon. But yeah, overall he's just a strong damage dealer, and the more damage you can dish out, the less damage you have to eat typically, and that's the way to play him. Blade Storm is a great ability to just pick off an enemy from afar, but I was also surprised at how useful Retribution Blade was for him, because not only is it a good it's like 3 range ability, which is nice. It also hits multiple enemies, but I also found that it was very good as a single target ability as well, because it did such good damage. So I was finding that I was using that a lot. But yeah, I mean, he's just overall a very strong unit. I'm still using him as my leader and everything, and I put him back in my arena teams doing well. So that's why he's number 8. Number 7 is Lofia, because she's the best support in the game right now. The reason she's the best support in the game right now is because typically the best support classes will have some combination of Professor, Bishop, as I realized later, Enchanter, and needs Chronomancy. Because Chronomancer is the best support job in my opinion, and she has that, and she also has couple of unique attributes that the other supports don't have. So she has Divine Shelter passive to help her to survive. She has Swift Charge to help her to cast quicker. She also has Absorb Jewels, which is a nice reactive ability. Typically, supports don't have good reactive abilities, but Lofia does. So, you can use her to overclock and tank a hit or two if you need to. You can also nuke with Black Hole. So that's why she's a solid support, and she will be good basically throughout the rest of the game, like for the next couple of years at least. So if you have her up to job 3, definitely use her as your support. Number 6 is Suzuka, because she is a nuke. She has a great leader skill, giving 50% to all light units attack. She has good mobility as a ninja main, and because she's a ninja main, she basically offsets some of the downsides of single blade, which of course, as you may know, reduces agility and everything like that. She uniquely holds the 2 most powerful attack passes in the game. Basically, those are Single Blade and Overdrive. Single Blade penalizes your agility, and Overdrive penalizes your defense. So while she's not going to be slow because she is a ninja, she is going to be squishy because of Overdrive, because of the low defense and everything. And ninjas don't have great HP to begin with. So I kind of, tongue-in-cheek said what she hits, she destroys, which is from a certain movie. But if she doesn't, then she's vulnerable. But, if you're not getting one-shotted by the enemy, you still have that option, just like Balt, to blood drain and things like that. You can also, rely on her speed to, hit from semi-range with Retribution Blade. But you can also have the option of doing Golden Bind, which will, do less damage, but stop the enemy in their tracks, which is going to be useful in some cases. The ninja job overall, I don't like the skill set that much as the main job, but because you want to use both Single Blade and Overdrive passives, that doesn't leave any room for ninja stealth. So if you use the other classes like Dark Cavalier, you're going to have limited mobility. Whereas if you use Ninja, inherently you're going to have more, like 4/4. So that's why you go with Ninja, and then basic Pitch Black Blade as your sub skill set has some good stuff in there. So yeah, that's why she's number 6. Number 5 is Selena, the best tank in the game. And when she first came into the game, people were looking at the JP tier list and saying, hey, she's bottom tier, she's going to be trash. But it turned out she got more HP than we expected. I think it was the JP levels. She has like hundreds more HP than Vettel, the next best tank. She also has a skill that not only busts her defense, which is what typically Holy Cavaliers will have, but it also self-heals, which is very important because as I say here, she can typically out-heal incoming damage. She also can dish out some decent damage. Her skills are pretty good. She has some, range. She has some AoE options, and she also has elemental coverage if you use basic magic blades. So very tanky, decent offensively, and can heal herself. The only weaknesses, of course, are that she's slow, but that's any tank in the game. And then also the game can introduce certain mechanics to make her less OP. Like for instance, in the Canon Extra event, we had those demons chucking those falling edges, which ignored defense. But she was still pretty survivable anyway, and any normal enemy is probably going to have a hard time damaging her. So yeah, she's just a very solid unit, very hard to beat. The good leader skill as well. So that's why she's number 5. Number 4 is our girl, Shayna. Now, some of you may be surprised to see her this low, but as you'll see, she has a lot of competition. The Holy Brawler business is too competitive, if you know what I mean. The Elite job, of course, is immediately available from job 1, which is part of what makes her so great, but it's also part of what makes her drop off a little bit toward the late game for now. Because her other jobs don't really synergize that well. Like she has Dragon Knight, which does give her, HP and attack, which is nice. Then she has Chronomancer, which is weird because typically you would not want to use her as a support because that basic fist sub-skill is so important. So it's a little bit of a weird mixed bag, and you might end up just using Holy Brawler anyway. Of course, the leader skill is very good, but mono water teams are not necessarily the meta right now. It was for a while, but it's probably dropping off now. But anyway, she's a very solid unit. There's really not too many weaknesses to talk of. It's just that the other units above her are just so much No, they're not so much better, but they are so good that, it was very hard to differentiate, and I had to be really nitpicky to do so. So that's why she's number 4. Number 3 is Yomi, because like Shayna, she can become a holy brawler, at least at job 3. But she has a little bit better synergy, I think, and she has more interesting options than Shayna does. For instance, if you wanted to, you could put Ninja Stealth on her instead of like Strike Mastery +2 for that little extra damage to give her even more mobility. Holy Brawlers are already pretty mobile, but if you give her that extra mobility, she can do things that other Holy Brawlers can't. Like she can get into the back lines, pick off those like mages or whatever. There's going to be uses like that for her in the future. She has more agility. I forgot to mention that Shayna's the slowest out of these 3 Holy Brawlers that I'm going to mention. Okay, I just kind of spoiled it. But yeah, I mean, stat-wise, Yomi has a little bit of an edge, I think. She's not as tanky, but, the speed kind of makes up for it. And I think just the added speed and mobility make her a little bit more useful overall. So that's why she's number 3. But this is not a large difference at all. Keep in mind that these ranks, there's not a wide gulf in between them. So yeah, she's number 3. Number 2, I already spoiled it, is Lucian, and that's because in my opinion he's just the most solid all-around holy brawler. His job synergy is great. All 3 of his jobs, when you master them, give him really good stats. Like they give him HP, they give him physical attack, they give him agility. I think 2 of the 3 give him dexterity, which also plays into the holy brawler's damage. So the synergy is just ideal for him, which makes him so solid. He also has, like Yomi, who had the option of being faster and more mobile, he has the option of being faster as well as far as agility goes with Feral Kid. He also can be tankier than the other holy brawlers with toughness or survival instinct. So he's just a little bit of a tougher holy brawler than the other 2, but again, the difference between 4, 3, and 2 is not that big. Whatever holy brawler you have that has a higher level, you probably want to go with that one. Also, the element has to be right. But that's why number 2 is Lucian, because generally speaking, I think people have the impression that he's the most solid holy brawler if you're lucky enough to have him. Now, this is my honorable mentions page, aka the appease the people who are mad that their favorite units were on the list page. And these are all, of course, very useful units, but they just didn't quite make the cut. And in different situations, they would be the best unit, I think. I think most of them are pretty self-explanatory. I put Shayna in there because, as we know, she becomes a holy brawler as well, and holy brawlers are always worthy of being considered. But she, like Shayna, doesn't necessarily have the best synergy, and she's also limited, so very few people are going to have her as a J3. Of course, her ranger job is viable as well. Feng Lu, we already talked about him in the other video. He just potentially has like the strongest nukes in the game, but he's a little bit difficult to use sometimes, and you need the right setups. Michael is also a great support, the best professor we have in the game right now. And then Rada, I wanted to give her a special shout out because I'm loving her Shrine Maiden / basic Sage ability setup, because you can basically self buff, like Fierce, Spirit Summon, whatever it's called, become really tanky, really solid overall, do strong auto attacks even, but you can also nuke with the basic Sage abilities. So she's very intriguing to me. I had to put her on here because I'm having a ton of fun kind of learning her potential. And the rest of the units on this list, I think I've discussed them at some point and should be pretty self-explanatory. And number 1 on the list is going to be possibly a surprise, but I don't think it really should be. Zangetsu. He has the highest damage output in the game because he has a very unique mixture of passives and abilities. Namely, for instance, unlike Rosa, who's also a Dragon Cavalier, he has the single blade passive ability, plus he has the ability to charge up. So he has not only one of the elite attack passives, he also has an elite self buff, which he can follow up with Grand Cross and just nuke absolutely everything. Even in the Sabretta extra event, which was way ahead of, you know, the meta, way ahead of what when we were supposed to get it. He was still able to one-shot them if you were maxed out and had a good weapon on him, and nobody else could do that. He's able to do things that other people can't. I also wanted to mention that he has good skills with scope variety, and what I mean by that is he has an ability that does like 6 squares in front of you. He has an ability that hits 4 squares in a line. He has Grand Cross, of course, which is a huge cross shape ability. He has access to Roundhouse Kick, which does square 9 hits, the 8 squares around you. So he has a lot of different ways to hit enemies that are unique, and he has a lot of good options that way. And if you want to do just like a regular attack and not trigger a counter, sometimes you can just hit from 2 squares away with that natural range that a Dragon Cavalier has, or you can do his regular, I forgot if it's called Steel Fist or something like that, from the basic combat. It's cheap and does good damage, and it won't trigger a counter. So he just has really good skill options on top of his crazy attack, on top of the self buff. And well, of course, I do need to mention his main downfall, his weakness, is his terrible agility. At level 75, my Zangetsu has 80 agility, and I've mastered all his jobs, which means that he will need, ideally, some support with Chronomancers, but even without, he can still, you know, sustain a few hits. He's fairly tanky, and, you know, his damage makes up for it. So that's why I think he's number 1, because he's uniquely able to do things that other people can't. And he just has like a crazy combination of skills and passives, minus toughness. I mean, that's just kind of mediocre, but yeah, he's just a powerhouse now and into the future. So that's why I put him at number 1. Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed this top 10 list. Feel free to debate respectfully in the comments and let me know what you think. If you want to see more of these in the future, let me know that as well. Or if this is just kind of becoming like redundant with other information out there, let me know that as well. So hope you guys enjoyed. I'm glad I'm done with this. My throat is drying up, and I'll see you guys next time.